In this video, I'll talk about grips and arrays in AUTOCAD. Using grips, you can perform the 5 frequently used editing commands in AUTOCAD in a faster and effective way. We can perform stretch, move, rotate, scale and mirror in a convenient manner. Let's see an example. I'll draw a rectangle by picking 2 opposite corner points. Then I'll go to offset command and I'll provide an offset distance by picking 2 points. Then I'll select the object and pick a point on the desired side. And I'll just give an enter to go out of the offset command. And when you select this entire object, you can see that there are some blue dots appearing at the key locations of the object. And these blue dots are called grips. By default, grips are enabled in AUTOCAD. If you want, you can disable it by right clicking the mouse and you go to options and you click on the selections tab. Over here you can see the complete parameters are related with grips. If you disable show grips and if you give apply and OK, and if you select the object, you won't see grips anymore. So I'll just go back to options, selections, then activate the grips. When you click on grip colors, you can change the colors of selected grips, unselected grips, hover grip color and grip contour color. All these parameters can be changed. Now I'll select these objects and you can see the blue dots which are called grips. When you take the cursor onto a particular grip, you will see a shortcut menu appearing. We will see that after some time, and I'll just click to activate this grip. Now the color of this active grip got changed to red color, and that particular grip point will become a base point for these 5 editing commands which are frequently used. The moment a particular grip becomes a hard grip, you will see the first editing command appearing at the prompt area, which is stretch. If you want, you can stretch this particular point to any desired side. Okay, and if you don't want to stretch it, you can just press the space bar and you will get the next editing command, which is move. So for the move command, that point will act as a base point. Now I'll press space bar once more. Now you will get the rotate command. I'll turn the ortho mode off and you will see that for the rotate command, this point will act as a reference point or pivot point. You can give any desired angle. I'll press space bar once more. Now you will see the scale command. Now you can give any desired scale factor. Once more I'll press the space bar and you will reach on to the mirror command. And for the mirror command, this point will act as the first point on the mirror line. Now when you pick the next point on the mirror line, you will get a mirror image. Now I'll press space bar once more and I'll come back to the stretch command. Likewise, you can cycle through these editing commands which are frequently used. Presently, this is a hard grip. Now I'll press space bar to move on to the next command, which is move. Now I'll keep the cursor in the rightward direction and I'll type a distance of 500 units. Now it is moved through 500. When you look at the grips, you can see that here there are 2 types of grips. End grips at the end point, then we have mid grips at the midpoint. Then when you take the cursor onto the mid grip, now what I'll do is I'll click on convert to arc. You can see that that particular straight segment will get converted to an arc segment. The options in the shortcut menu varies from object to object. Now I'll click on the mid grip and make it hot. And when I move the cursor leftward, you can see that both the endpoints will get moved along with it. Depending upon the type of grip point you choose, you get a corresponding result. So that's all about grip editing. Now we have come to the array command. Array in AUTOCAD is used to create multiple copies in different formats. I'll create an object to explain this concept. Let me make a chair. So I'll use a rectangle command. I'll click my first corner here. Then I'll go to dimension option. When I'm asked to give the length, I'll give 45. When I'm asked to give the width, I'll give 45. Now I'll pick to define the opposite corner point and I'll zoom in. Then I'll draw another polyline connecting these endpoints. Then I'll offset this polyline through a distance of 10 units. And this is the object and this is the side. Next I'll connect these endpoints using a polyline arc. So I'll go to polyline. This is a start point. Then right click, arc, right click, second point. And this is a second point and you can use the end point. Now I'll go to copy command, select this as a base point and choose this as a second point. So let it represent a chair. In AUTOCAD there are 2 types of arrays. One is array command, another one is array classic command. When you give array command, you will get both these options. We'll see array classic first. When you go to array classic, you will get this dialog box. There are 2 types of arrays. One is rectangular, another one is polar. In rectangular arrays, as you can see here, you will get multiple copies of an object in a matrix fashion with fixed number of rows and columns with a fixed distance separating the individual elements in a row as well as in a column. Now you can see 4 rows and 4 columns by default. Suppose I want 3 rows, I can type 3 here. I need 6 columns, so I'll type 6 here. Now you should select the objects, click on select objects and select these objects. It will ask you for a row offset and column offset. Row offset and column offset is nothing but the distance separating the individual elements. I'll give 75 each. 75 and 75. And you can preview the array. So this is how the multiple copies will appear. Now you can press spacebar to come back to the same dialog box if you want to vary any of the parameters. Suppose instead of 6 columns, if I want, I can go for 8 columns. And this row offset and column offset can also be specified using pick both offset option. When you click on this option, you can create a rectangle, and the width of this rectangle will be treated as the distance between individual elements in a column, and the height of this rectangle will be treated as the corresponding distance in a row. Let us pick to define the opposite corner. Now the corresponding distances, the corresponding values will appear here. Now you can just preview it. Now press spacebar to come back to the same dialog box. Now we have an angle of array option here. If I give an angle of say 15 degrees and you can preview it, so you can see that the array will get rotated through an angle of 15 degrees. So likewise you can create rotated arrays. I'll bring it back to 0 and I'll reset the values to 75 each. And if you are satisfied with the parameters, just give OK to create the array. This is how you make a rectangular array. I'll undo this and I'll try the polar array. In polar array, the multiple copies are created along the circumference of a circle, along the periphery of a circle, with a center point specified by the user. Now I'll go to array classic again. I'll select the objects to be arrayed as this chair. Now I'll go to polar and center point. I can either define by inputting an x and y coordinate, or else I can just pick a point on the desired location. Then total number of items is 4. I'll make it say 8. Then angle to fill 360. 360 when you give, it will fill full circle. But if you give 180, it will fill only a semicircle. So I want 360. Now you can preview the array. So this is how it is going to come. Press spacebar to come back to the same dialog box. And we have an option here called rotate items as they are copied. When you disable this option, when you preview the array, you can see that individual objects will not get rotated. The objects will retain the original orientation. But if you click on rotate items, see the each items will get rotated through a certain angle, and the angle will be equal to 360 divided by the total number of items. Now presently it is total number of items and angle to fill are the parameters which are enabled. But if you want, you can go to total number of items and angle between them, or else you can give angle to fill and angle between them. Okay, when angle to fill is 315 and the angle between them is 45, you will get the same array. So you can try out any of these parameters depending upon the availability. Now I'll just give OK to create the array. Next I'll try the second type of array, which is called the array object. If you want to create an array object, you can give array command at the command prompt, or else you can choose the array object from the modify panel. So we will get rectangular array, polar array and the path array. So I'll go to rectangular. Then I'll ask you to select the object to be arrayed. I'll choose this particular chair. Then it will create the array automatically with 4 columns and 3 rows. At the ribbon, you will get array creation tab and you will see all the parameters related with a rectangular array. Here if you want, you can change the number of columns to 6 and you can control the distance between elements in a column. Here I'll give the value 120. Now the row distance can be varied, or else you can also give the distance in terms of the total distance. I'll give say 600. So the total distance will get varied. You can also provide levels and distance between each levels to create 3D arrays. Now I'll just close this array once you are satisfied with the parameters. And when you just click on the array, you will see certain grips appearing. This end arrow grip can be used to change the number of columns. When you move the mouse rightward, you can increase the number of columns. When you move it leftward, you can decrease it. So I'll move it rightward and increase it. And similarly, this particular end grip can be used to change the row count manually by dragging. And the distance between the elements in a column can be varied by clicking on this arrow. I mean, you move the mouse rightward, the distance can be varied. And similarly, the distance between column can also be varied by moving this particular grip. You also have a corner grip over here, which will let you change the number of rows and columns together. I'll turn the ortho mode off, then I move the mouse. You can see that the number of rows and columns are getting changed. But when you click on the array object, you can see that the entire object will remain as a single object. That's a property of the array object. And the moment you click on the array object, and you will see all the parameters related with the arrays appearing at the ribbon. I'll undo this recent change. Now I'll click on the array again. You have an option over here called edit source. Edit source option will let you edit a single object in an array object, and you will see the changes getting reflected on the rest of the objects. Let's try that out. I'll select this chair and I'll give OK. Then I'll just click on this polyline rectangle. When I take the cursor onto this middle grip, I'll get convert to arc option and I'll convert this into an arc segment. When you do this change, you will see the changes getting reflected everywhere. Now when you edit an array, you will get this edit array option appearing at the ribbon. Then you click on save changes. Now this change is saved on rest of the objects. This happens because the array object by default is associative. If you want to disable the associative nature of arrays, you have to explode it. So I'll type X. Now you can select individual objects in the array. I'll erase, select all these objects, and I'll type R to remove. Only this particular object I want to remove, and give an enter to get rid of the rest of the objects. Now let's try polar array. So I'll go to modify panel and I choose polar array, and I'll select the object to be arrayed. Then it will ask you for the center point of the array. I'll click the center point somewhere over here, for example. Now you will see 6 numbers of the same object getting generated and aligned along the periphery of a circle. Now you can control the parameters over here. The number of items can be controlled here. Instead of 6, if you want, you can go for 9. And number of rows and columns, if you can have several rows of the same item. If I want 3 rows, I can get it. I'll type 3. So you will get such an array formation in 3 rows. Okay, I'll bring it back to 1. Now the distance between individual items can be controlled here. You can also control the distance between individual items over here and the total angle to fill. When you click on the array, you will get 4 grips. Each grip has got unique applications. When you click on the center grip, you'll be able to move the entire array to a different location, like this. Now, the square grip which you see here can be used to change the radius of the array. Like this, you can change it. Now I'll undo this. And this arrow grip which you see here can be used to change the angle to fill, or the included angle of the array. I'll undo this. This particular arrow grip can be used to change the total number of items in the array. I'll undo that also. You can also change the parameters related with an array using the options which you get in the shortcut menu related with the grip. And how will you get that shortcut menu? I'll just click on this polar array, and when I take the cursor onto this grip, I don't have any shortcuts. But when I take the cursor over here, I'll get a shortcut menu in which I'll see options like stretch radius, row count, level count, etc. If I click on stretch radius, I can change the radius of this array. I'll just click to define the new radius, or else I can give a numeric value. Take you to the next item, that is row count. You can give the number of rows. I'll give say 3 rows. Now I have 3 rows in this array. Now I can just click on the close array to retain this array. I'll undo this. Now I'll click on this array again. Now we have another option called level count, which will let you get multiple levels in 3 dimension. And that is beyond the scope of our approach. Now take the cursor onto this grip, you will see item count and angle to fill. If I click on item count, it will ask you for the number of items. If I want 6 items, I can give 6. Software cuts off the 3 items from here. Now I'll undo this again. Now when I click on this, I have the shortcut, and I'll take fill angle, and I can give a fill angle of say 180. So it will fill only half circle. Likewise, you can make use of the shortcut menu to incorporate changes. Even in a rectangular array, you can incorporate the similar changes. As I told you before, an array object is associative in nature. That means it will remain as a single object. For this, when you explode, it will lose the associative nature. You can retain the associative nature of an array. At the same time, you can remove one or more elements from an array. For that, just hold on the control key and click on the selected object to be erased. So I'll select all these objects. Now I can give erase command. So it's gone. Now if I click on the array, it will remain as a single object. That means it has retained the associative nature. Whenever you want, you can restore the array by clicking on the reset array button. Now you will get the array back. So this is how you edit a single object in an array. Now we come to the third type of array, which is called the path array. In the path array, you can have multiple copies of an object along a path. So let's create the path using a polyline. So I'll go to polyline, and from this mid I'll start, then I'll right click, then I'll go to arc option, then I'll again right click and go to second point option, and I'll pick a second point over here, then I'll pick the end point here. Let this be the polyline path. Now I'll go to path array. In the modify panel, I'll click on path array and select the object, then just give an enter, then it will ask you to select the path curve. Path curve is nothing but the polyline which you have created. Now you have multiple copies, and you can vary all the parameters related with this array in the ribbon. And here the distance between individual item is displayed as 97.5. If you want, you can give a higher value. I'll make it say 120. So you can see that the gap between individual items will get widened. Alternatively, you can also change the gap between items. So I'll click on the path array object, then I'll click on this grip, then I'll move the mouse, and when I move the mouse, you can see the distance between items getting changed. Just disable the O snap by pressing F3 function key, then I'll pick a point over here. Now you can see that the gap got widened. Now I'll click on the array object, and you can change the array creation method. The array creation method by default is measure method. You can change that to divide method. In the measure method, you actually give the distance between individual items to control the number of objects. Whereas in the divide method, you can give the total number of items. Presently it is 6, I'll make it to say 12. So the total number of items changed from 6 to 12. So that is called the divide method of array creation. You can also change the number of rows from 1 to 2 if you want. So you will get one more row here, and this gap or distance between rows you can control here from 102 to 200. This particular gap will get widened. I'll just close the array and I'll undo this. Now we have a base point option. Base point option will let you change the base point of the array. I'll activate the O snap and I'll choose this particular endpoint as the base point. So what happens is this base point will get aligned with the path. So base point is a point which will get aligned with the path, which can be changed as per your requirement. So here also we have an edit source option, then a reset array option and all that. We have already discussed those options. So that's all about path arrays and the concept of arrays in AutoCAD.